Thank you very much. I'd like to thank everybody here in the audience for joining me and giving me the chance to share my thoughts for a few moments with you all. I've really been in the business now for a number of years of natural medicine, and medicine has been with humanity for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. In fact, there's that old saying that if you don't have your health, you have nothing. And Western scientific medicine is really only 100, 150-year-old, 200-year-old science at best, whereas traditional medicine has been around since time immemorial. So I've had the privilege now of being considered one of the top experts in this field, at least through Australia Pacific. And by the end of the year, we'll have a number of clinics and hospitals throughout Australia, New Zealand, ranging right through the Pacific into Tonga, Fiji, Samoa. We've had the privilege of liaising with key leaders, heads of government and state throughout those countries in order to basically create systems that haven't been done before to really re-engineer and bring back the principles of traditional medicine that have probably been lost. In fact, most of us in the Western world, if we have an ache, a pain, an illness or an injury, we're taught to go see our Western medical doctor. But at least before the last 100 years, most people would go see the herbalist in the village and they'd use the plants that were there to heal themselves. So I would submit to you that are listening to me today that you're all struggling with something. It might be an ache, a pain, an injury, perhaps a headache that won't go away, or something that is troubling you in some way. And I would submit to you that perhaps the solution to that lays in natural medicine and perhaps some of the principles that have least long since been forgotten in our field. So I would like to give you a few takeaways that you can use for yourself and use for your clients and use for your family and friends in terms of different distinctions that you can make in order to improve your own health. And I really debated before I came here, there's a number of pressing issues that press humanity, particularly in health. Some of those are stem cell research. Some of those are the issues of life and death and immortality. Some of those are related around different breakthroughs in some of the medical sciences that mean that we may live longer than we ever have in human history. But certainly nobody wants to live in a broken down, wounded, aching and hurting body. So it's generally the belief of old school natural therapists that there's no incurable illnesses. We believe that your body can overcome anything. It doesn't matter if it's an ache, a pain, or if it's something more serious, such as a very chronic condition where a Western doctor may have told you that you may die. Now, all these plants have been around us for thousands of years, but most of us don't utilise it. Most of us have been taught that the answer is perhaps in a drug or in taking a temporary solution. But I would submit to you 3 basic principles that you can use to take away for you and your family and friends that you can use to better your health. And the foundation of old school natural medicine has always been that toxicity creates illness. We always believe that the quality of your life is really the quality of your cells. You've got about 100 trillion cells inside you now, and the ones that are strong serve you better, whereas the ones that are weak are the ones that give you problems. And for some of you, it might be your eyeball, or it might be your thyroid, or it might be a kidney, or a liver, or a bowel. But all of us struggle with something, and these weak cells are really the ones that cause you problems. Now, these weak cells have trouble throwing out their toxicity, and when that happens, toxicity accumulates, and when that happens, disease and illness sets in. And for some people, it might be the lower back, or it might be a bowel, or it might be somewhere else. Now, you couple this toxicity with poor nutrition and your genetic weaknesses, and you start to create some of the conditions and premises that creates poor health. So I would submit to you, if you're going to take a few takeaways from my talk for you and your family and those you cherish, would be to embrace some of these old school principles. The first thing would be to learn to detoxify at least once a season. Every old school approach to natural medicine used to do this. I had the privilege of spending time with one of the most famous healers in Africa, who was in Ethiopia, and he was talking about how the medicine men there, whenever you were sick, every season would go and give you plant-based medicine that would purge your bowels, purge your liver, purge your colon, purge your kidneys, purge your bloodstream, and hence create an environment of healing. But most of us have lost this environment of healing because we're so backed up with toxins and stress. The average human being now checks their smartphone at least every 6 minutes. So you can imagine the type of nervous system condition that that's creating. But also natural therapists, we only look at about 6 different key factors that affect the quality of your life. And the number one is elimination, which I've alluded to before, which is the elimination of the bowels, the kidneys, the respiratory system and the skin. We really believe that these are the exits. And if these don't move at least once a season, toxicity backs up, the cells get unhealthy, and then you get sick. The second main thing that old school natural therapists look at is the circulatory systems. And there's two of those. There's the circulation and there's what's called lymphatic glands. And the lymphatic glands are basically the transport system that pump all the sewage around your body back to those elimination vehicles. So if you've got impaired circulation, sluggish lymphatic glands, and you've got impaired bowel, kidney, respiratory and skin elimination, then you're going to have some issues. The third thing that I would submit to you that's impacting your health right now is the impact of your thyroid, which regulates your metabolism. And your metabolism, we believe that 90% of people tend to slow down under stress and 10% of people tend to speed up. And most people blame the weather or a poor diet, but genes have a huge play into the homeostasis of your body weight and how quickly you burn energy. The final three things that we assess is the quality of your general organs. We really believe that your sicknesses don't come from a deficiency in pharmacological medication. We really believe that your weaknesses come from the function of your general organs. And the fifth and sixth pillar that I'd submit to you finally is strengthening the nervous system and the reproductive organs in human beings. All of us in this audience come, if we're an upper primate, if we're a Homo sapien, we come hardwired with a reproductive weakness, which is why we're such hormonally driven creatures. And all of us also are more nervously impaired and more nervously exhausted than any time in human history. Literally, you're going to find that your clients, your family, your friends have more nervous system stress than any of our forefathers had to deal with in human history in many, many, many ways. And then the final thing that's the wild card that's often neglected is obviously the structural system, because all of us have muscular and skeletal pain. Now, it's costing our planet billions and billions of dollars every year. The sickness industry is a huge industry, and obviously there's some governments around the world that have mastered this more than others. There's certain governments in Africa, there's certain governments in Oceania, there's certain governments throughout North and South America that have mastered this and have developed systems that make it more inexpensive for us as a taxpayer to not have to fund the sicknesses that other people are creating in their own body. And while I'm not here today to address what governmental system is best to run or even how to run intergovernmental or interbusiness systems, I'd like to submit to you that to really go back and consider natural health and take a few takeaways from my talk. And one of those is this: if you're not detoxifying at least once every season, you're in trouble. And we assault our body with alcohol and things year after year. So I'd submit to you every 3 to 6 months, you take herbs. It doesn't matter if it's senna or rhubarb or cascara or any of these plants, or harataki from Thailand, but you clean your body, you clean the bowels and you clean the kidneys and you clean the liver, and you stop animal products at least for a few days. The second thing that I'd submit to you is that the most important nutrient in the water is oxygen. And most of us are so starved of it that we're absolutely suffering and we're tired all the time. And we all know Dr. Otto Warburg, who won the Nobel Prize in 1931. He found cancer can only grow in an absence of oxygen. And we've had all the answers under our nose all this time, and most of us are living in a system which is not conducive to try and create a solution for that. So I would submit to you that the second most important element is in nutrition is human oxygen. And I would submit to you, without getting your clients into a hyperbaric oxygen chamber or trying to be like a celebrity and buy one in your home, that you learn to breathe effectively. So I'd ask everyone who's listening to me in the audience now, particularly those at the front, to do an exercise with me, because I'd just like to wake you up to something. One of those would be, if you put your hands here, your chest, I want you to breathe in as deep as you can, but I don't want you to raise your shoulders like you're trying to expand your chest. I'd rather encourage you, my friends, to expand your diaphragm. The bottom 2/3 of your lungs are below your chest. So I want you to breathe in as deep as you can, and when you get to the peak of that breath, I want you to hold it for at least 4 times the duration that you inhaled. Now, most of us are subconscious breathers, and most of us are so oxygen deprived that we're completely exhausted, and most of us have had the privilege the last 2 hours to listen to distinguished speakers from all around the world. I've seen at least 3 or 4 or 5 continents that I've had the privilege to learn from, and most of us have been inactive and we haven't been moving and our blood hasn't been moving, and that's why you're feeling tired. It's not just a lack of movement, but it's a lack of oxygen in your red blood cells and hemoglobin that's affecting you. The second and third most important principles in human nutrition that I would submit to you are H2O, or water, and obviously chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the green molecule that gives plants its pigment. It's basically plant blood. And the fourth most important mineral I'd submit to you is oils, particularly plant-based oils. And that's particularly why fish oil we've seen take off so much. Fish oil or oils are basically the membrane that's around every cell in your body. So when you go home and you work with your clients, teach them how to breathe, and most of us take water for granted. You know, we flush it down our toilet, perhaps not appreciating that we need at least 2 litres a day to function. And the final thing as I wrap up that I'd ask you to consider with your clients, your colleagues, your family and friends is genetic weaknesses, and you all know what they are. It might be your thyroid, it might be your nervous system, it might be your reproductive area. But I would submit to you that the principle of detoxification, the principle of plant-based medicine, the principle of human nutrition through oxygen, effective breathing, water, greens based on chlorophyll, oils, and also supporting human genetic weakness through plant-based remedies, being proactive and not reactive. It's really one of the greatest solutions of our time and should not be forgotten in the age of Western medicine. And I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much.